This pilot gets into a tight landing field on an XC flight, nearly crashes into power lines, and ends up slamming into the ground, causing severe injuries. Today, I'm going to break this down and teach you one incredibly important skill that you have to have if you're going to be flying XC. It's all about landings. Are you ready? Here we go.
See ya.
I'm paragliding!
See ya.
What's up, everybody? This is Ari in the Air. Welcome back to the channel. Stoked you're here. I teach high-level paragliding to create safe, confident, connected pilots. I've made over 200 tutorials here on YouTube, but if you really want these skills, you're going to want to come out to Oregon and train with me at the Pine Man. It's my all-inclusive week-long paragliding clinic in late May. All levels of licensed pilots are welcome, and all the information is linked in the description. Check it out. Let's get into today's video. So this was sent by a viewer on his XC trip to Brazil. So we are going to watch it one time through, and then I'm going to break it down and tell you what I see, tell you how I think of this myself. Okay, so he's setting up. You see, this is pretty small field, and there's a number of fences around. He's already got dogs barking at him. Big clouds because it looks like a great cross-country day. Okay, number of fields. I'll point out the hazards as they become visible. You see this pole right here. Look at this pole. It's got a power line connected to it. It's actually two power lines that run this way. You see it? Now we're seeing the power lines. Okay, now here's another pole. So there's another power line this way. So now this landing field is hemmed in between two power lines, okay? So now he makes a hard left turn, wingtip down to the ground, swings over, he makes a hard right turn. It's like kind of a wing over. And then he gets too close to the power line. And this is the final frame, and he pounds in, and I think it broke his femur, and I think it broke his pelvis, and I think it broke his back, something like that. They were very serious injuries, and it took him a long time to recover, and he shared this video with us, hoping that we could break it down so that other people don't have to go through what he did to learn this lesson. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's talk about this. Okay, so here, this is like basically the best view we have of the actual LZ that he was lining up for. Place looks pretty big from up high, and it was probably pretty late in the approach that he recognized that there was actually power lines going across this, making it very, very narrow, right? And like most people, the technique that he is using to try to modify his approach length, right? Because obviously back here, if he just goes straight, he's afraid that he's going to overfly and crash into these trees out here, right? So he's trying to stay back here and do figure eights so that he can burn altitude so that he can land safely in this area. But little did he know, there's power lines here and there's power lines here, making this landing field actually really narrow. So in this situation, when the landing field is very narrow, then it makes it less and less realistic to do these back and forth turns low to the ground. And instead, what he needs to be doing is changing the glide length using intentional inefficiencies. Okay. You know, there are many intentional inefficiencies that pilots use. Let's say the most common one at a low level is called big ears. You collapse the wingtips of the glider, making less sail and inducing a bunch of drag, and it makes the glide worse. On the higher end, there's like pulling the brakes down and then stepping on the speed bar, which makes your glide a lot worse as well. All the way to the most technical is like flapping, you know, where you see the pilots pulling the brakes down and letting go, pulling them down and letting go. They're staying on a heading, but they're creating big drag and big pitch into the glider. And this makes the glider glide like shit. And it brings us down to the ground sooner. Okay. All of these techniques have their ups and downs, pun not intended, but some of them are more realistic to do close to the ground. Some of them are more dangerous to do close to the ground, and they require varying levels of technicality, skill. So I want to talk about a couple of those here. Generally, what I would want to be doing here in this position is stay on the heading. Obviously, the back and forth turns are not a problem until you get close to the ground. And then once you're close to the ground, the back and forth turns are not tenable. What happened here, let's just break down his instance, and then I'll go into more just like kind of best practice and how I would do it. So basically, once he's here, he turns to the right, and then he makes this big 180 turn to the left here. Big 180 turn, right? Right here, he's probably not really good at doing full power wingovers, wingtip touches, like really high level waga and acrobatics. And because of that, this big 180 turn, he's in over his head here because now he's got so much energy to manage that he knows he doesn't want to crash into this power line just below him. And he knows he doesn't want to crash into that one, but he actually lets the glider, if we just play it, he lets the glider turn back to the right in a way that just screwed up his aim, let's say. And it put him back towards this, and he keeps turning to the right. He's trying to go back and forth and back and forth. But notice, we've got lots of room over here to the left. We've got this fence that's protruding here. So this big turn, this big 180 turn, it just induces so much energy so close to the ground that it's going to take a lot of technical skill to manage it and manage your aim and deal with the obstacles. And I think that this is why I'm recommending that he actually simplify the process, because look how much room he's got here to run this out. You know, he's got 200 yards in front of him. So he really doesn't need to be forcing these huge turns really close to the ground. It would be better at this point right here, instead of this big 180 turn, let's just right here, we're already pointed on final. Instead of continuing to do these big turns, first things first, let's take a half rep and let's just pull the brakes to min sync. Let's just slow this glider down, okay? Once we're here, then I might still do slight zigzags, but I'm not going to do these big giant turns, right? So I'll pull down to min sync and I'll weight shift to the left, over towards the left power line. And then once I get over there, then I'll weight shift to the right and I'll kind of like be zigzagging subtly, but not huge big turns, man. We're just too close to the ground. And unless you're going to like come spiraling to do a wingtip touch or something, you're just adding more complexity, more energy. And ultimately the energy is the problem, right? Because he pounds into the ground under a huge turn. So from this position, we're already on final. Let's stay on final. We don't need to be doing huge turns. We have a very narrow LZ. We're going to have to use it. We want to use all of the length that's available to us, and we want to control our glide length using forced inefficiencies. The easiest one is just to pull the brakes down to min sync. We're nowhere near stall point. We're just slowing the glider down. And when we pull on the brakes like this, we're going to go, he's flying a Bonanza 3. It's an ENC 2-liner. It probably gets a 10.5 to 1 in dead air or something like that, 10 to 1. And so if you just take a half rep and you pull it down to min sync, you're going to turn it into a 6 to 1 at best, maybe 5 to 1. So that already is helping, right? Then if we have more skill, which hopefully if you're flying an ENC 2-liner, you should be able to flap the glider. Like this is a skill that you can learn way before. This is something I learned when I was flying a B at the beach. It's like pull the brakes down, let them up, pull them down, let them up, pull them down, let them up. The instructors tend to say, oh, you don't want to do this because, they think that the students are going to stall the glider. And they should be afraid of that. Everybody should be afraid of stalling the glider low to the ground by pulling the brakes really hard. But by the time that you're flying cross country on a 2-liner, it's like we want to have all kinds of tools in our kit so that when we find ourselves in an unexpected situation in a tight LZ, that we can bring all of the skills to the table. Because this flight ends in very serious injury. And so being really conservative with your glider choice, being really conservative with your LZs, being conservative with like whether you're going to scratch and try to climb out of this little valley, or if you're just going to glide out and have a big conservative landing field. These are all choices that in hindsight, once you're injured and once you're needing an ambulance and once you're needing people to carry you out of there, it's all so clear that, man, I should have just made more conservative decisions here and then here and then here and then here. And it's like, man, I wish I was on a B, or man, I wish I would have just gone and landed. And man, I wish I would have, it's just like, in hindsight, it's all so easy. And so making really conservative decisions the entire time it behooves us. It behooves us. So let's use all of the length we have. We're going to use forced inefficiencies, whether we're pulling down to min sync, whether we're pulling big ears, whether we're flapping. But generally, we can do a modified flap where we're not pulling all the way to a stall point, and we're just like going from min sync to a little deeper to hands up. And it just kind of induces a pitch energy, and it just kills the glide. And it's going to help us get into smaller LZs without having to do big, giant turns. I hope that's helpful for you guys. Man, I want to be able to like immerse you in this kind of flying and shower you with my mentorship. The only way I can really do that is if you come out to Oregon to train with me for an entire week, late May. It's the Pine Man. It's all inclusive, all your transportation, all your lodging, all your food, all your instruction, multiple instructors, cross-country flying and retrieve, glass off flying, soaring, hike and fly, sled rides, getting your gear dialed in, so much kiting, launching, landing, top landings. There's really nothing that we can't go over in this time together. The link is in the description. Very limited spots available. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode.